This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Ping.fm, and Upsnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio.
Welcome to Life Mastery Radio with Todd Allen and Jackie Bailey, the show that dives into the science of higher consciousness with inspiring topics such as abundance, intention, health, manifestation, love, and transformation. Join Todd, Jackie, and their guests of leading authors, speakers, coaches, and entrepreneurs weekly at 10 a.m. Pacific. Learn to live a peaceful life with intentional mastery. It's all right here with stories and messages to support your well-being and most evocative dreams. Now, here's your hosts, Todd and Jackie.
Hey, it's another groovy day, and most of you know that's because I make it that way. When I get up in the morning, I decide it's going to be a groovy day, and it has no choice but to happen that way. That's the way it works. Try it. You'll like it. If something happens, something might change, something might come off the wall headed my way, I always think back, hey, I started off this day groovy. I can flip this around, and it works. It works like magic. So I highly recommend it. Welcome to Life Master Radio. Sorry about the late start. We had some technical issues, but we are off and running and ready to share with you a really, well, I'll say it like this. She's a really groovy guest. I've had her on the show before. She has a great system, and it is a simple idea to help you manage your thoughts. That's the way it works. We're going to talk to her in just a minute. But as always, I have my co-host with me today, riding shotgun, Jackie Bailey. She's so patient with me. And
hi, everybody.
She hears music and she just has to move. That's just
the way
it is. She is also leading the charge with a group of young individuals with her Speak Feed Lead project. And it is truly amazing the way she is inspiring young people to speak their voice and to share their thoughts and ideas with us. And it is so telling and so inspiring to hear what they're thinking. Right, Jackie?
Oh, well, this week, 6 of my male students are on the Week of Kindness and Gratitude Summit. It's a 7-day summit. It started on Sunday. And one of my students is speaking on every day of this week. So it's been exciting to, of course, hear their messages. And we love giving them opportunity to share their voice with the world. That's the exciting part.
It's pretty cool. In the world of Zoom these days, summits are very popular, right? A lot of people are putting on summits, and it's a global thing. And let me understand it if I'm correct. People are getting a hold of you to get your speakers on their summits. And this is a global phenomenon.
Eyes have been opened and people are starting to realize kids are inspiring and they have something important to tell us out of the mouth of babes, right? And therefore, there are people who put on these summits who are event planners or organizers, and they're calling me and saying, we want your students to be on our summit. We want them to give a 30-minute message or a 10-minute message or a 20-minute message, whatever the case might be with different summits. And here comes a siren. Sorry. Hope you don't hear that. But I'm like, yes, let's do this. And the kids are so excited. And I think what happens to them is, as a byproduct is they realize as they look at this menu of speakers that are on these summits with them, they realize I've hit the big time. They're in the company of these amazing people. And they could never imagine being so, and they're become their peers. I mean, that's really confidence building all on its own, is being able to feel part of something bigger than yourself. So,
and you're giving them training on how to be TED Talk speakers and all of that stuff. So here's the deal: if you have a young person that has a great message, or you think, well, all young people can develop a great message, right, Jackie?
They all have it. They just haven't tapped into it yet. And most of the time, they just don't have the confidence to really share it with people. They all have
So
it. They
that's
just
what
don't
Jackie
realize.
does. That's what Jackie does. She opens those inner thoughts and ideas and that inner wisdom for these kids to shine. It's pretty cool. And you can get a hold of Jackie at
So go to speakfeedlead.org
and check it out, because she's making a difference in the world through young people, and they are so inspiring. It's just amazing. I've had the opportunity to judge some of the speech contests and listen to these kids, and it's pretty cool stuff. So check it out. If you are a young person that you have a young person that would benefit. I mean, the return on investment is huge. It will last them the rest of their life. What better thing could you do for it?
Yeah, I don't think we realize how much kids and teens have been repressed with their voices over, especially the last 2 years. But I think in our society, it's sort of this ingrained understanding that you don't only speak when you're spoken to, or, you don't talk when the adults are talking. And I don't know that there's anything wrong with that necessarily, except that we're giving our kids a message that what they have to say is unimportant. And we want to break that and give them a different message and say, you absolutely are worthy of being heard.
Yeah.
And so let's give you opportunity to feel confident in what you have to say and get you out there. So,
yeah. And they have a unique and inspiring perspective on the world. Believe it or not, they do.
They do.
We're all clouded with and we're going to learn about that today too. We have all this stuff going on in our head, the monkey mind scrambling it all up and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
We're going to learn how to check into that. Just a quick reminder, today's show page is at www.lifemasteryradio.net or .com, whichever one you prefer. And any links that we talk about are right there, and you can follow along. So you don't have to worry about writing anything down. Sign up for our newsletter. Jackie produces a newsletter every week. It highlights who's been on the show, who's coming on the show, and a blog post about the most recent show. We also have a YouTube channel. All of our shows are on YouTube. So my call to you is to tell a friend about this groovy show with Todd and Jackie and the cool guests that they have on, because we talk about all things that will provide you with great thoughts and ideas for you to use on your very own life mastery journey. Okay, I think I'm done paving the way, and we got kind of a late start, but let's go on with the show. Our guest today is Zen Cryar DeBrucke, and she is the founder of Smart Soul Academy, which makes accessible globally her seminal work on your internal guidance system, or IGS, as she refers it to, that has made her an international sensation. And it has made her a sensation in my own head, because I remember having her on the show, and it's amazing how when you hear things that you automatically start doing them. And so I was reviewing for the show today, and I was thinking, yeah, I remember that. She is an internationally renowned inspirational teacher, speaker, author, and executive coach. Zen's passion is teaching people to tap into their innate inner guidance to generate consistent, successful results in life. The result is replacing exhaustion, anxiety, fear, and dread with ease, joy, flow, and fulfillment. Zen's programs have helped thousands of people all over the world transform their lives for the better with sustained positive changes in their business and their personal lives. Zen, welcome back to the show. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. Thank you, Alan, for having me. And Jackie, I am so excited. I wrote down your information. I have a 13-year-old daughter who's inspiring, and I am going to definitely hook you up.
Nice.
We did our job for the day. Show's over. Yeah.
Jackie, thank you for doing the work you're doing. I think it's incredibly important. So I appreciate you.
Well, I appreciate that very much. And tell your daughter we're putting kids on a summit in August. So we'd love to have your daughter involved in that if she'd like to be. It'd be awesome.
Okay.
and we must qualify it, because Jackie helps them formulate their message. She helps.
I don't just throw them into the deep end of the pool. We work with them to help them find their message and help them to work it into a real story or speech. And so they go in really well prepared.
Good. I'm excited. Really. I would thank you. So nice to meet you.
So
Yes.
Zen, tell us about your book. Well, let's get a little bit of the backstory first, maybe. I mean, you were a successful manager, or you were in big tech, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. Well, I mean, I think I would start back in high school where I emancipated myself from my parents, had a really rough childhood, and I was a high school dropout. I was having a lot of troubles. I came out of the gate resentful and angry from all of the Jerry Springer-like stuff going on in my family. And that's why I had to get away. The drama was keeping me from making anything of myself. But I came out really in a self-sabotaging way in my life. And a friend of mine, when I was about 22, gave me a little cassette tape, dating myself, of Abraham Hicks. Oh, and yeah. It was in the very beginning where she was just taking questions from a small group of people in a living room.
Esther Hicks, yeah.
Yep, Esther Hicks. And she wanted me to know about the law of attraction, because I would do things like leave a roommate situation because I was angry and then not have any place to go and be really disappointed in my reaction, or work at a restaurant and they would give me a critique of some sort and I would quit and expect them to come chase me down the street, be like, no, we can't live without you. Never happened. They never, yeah. So I love this cassette tape, but the thing that hit me was they talked about having an internal guidance system, which is why I call this that. And they said that when your body's centered and relaxed or expansive in the way you feel, your thoughts are in alignment and you're moving towards your life's blueprint or its purpose. And when your body is tight inside, your thoughts are out of alignment, and you're moving into a place where you're going to do something that's going to make you really unhappy and is not going to be successful. And I knew that right before I sabotaged myself, I felt that tightness, but I couldn't get out of it. And I had a knee-jerk reaction. And from there, the software system of my brain would go and I would have a reaction, right? A lot of times it was to run, get angry and run, but that was mine. And everybody has their own stress themes and defenses that I've discovered. And so I started decoding this. And I went from a high school dropout to getting my high school diploma at night school, to going to community college, to getting a 4-year degree from UC Davis in foreign policy, starting my own import-export company, and then being one of the first internet design CEOs in downtown San Francisco, starting in 1997. This was a period of 8 years. I went from a high school dropout, living out of my car, all the way to living in San Francisco and having this incredible career. And what it was I was able to follow the openings, and we'll do a little exercise so that your people can feel this, right? But I was following my openings, and every choice that I was making was the highest choice that's going to be the most effective. And everyone is born with this system. It's already activated in your life. Like I said, I was closed when I was sabotaging myself. And so everybody's had it their entire lives. And I believe that this experience in our bodies is really cool, because since I talked to you in 2015, Todd, I've discovered that this is reprogramming the neural pathways of our brain.
Wow.
That the old patterns go away. And that's something I want to talk about, is that we actually have a system in our body that's activated when we're born to transform the neural pathways in our brain to be who we truly want to be. It's already there. So I'm just blown away by that. And I feel like this is going to be one of the biggest advancements for the human species once we learn to use it, because we don't have to be stuck in shame and confusion and lack and, all these various things that hold us back in life, like the stuff you're doing, Jackie, with the kids, right?
Yeah.
So we don't have to be stuck there. Every day, moment to moment, we can make little shifts into the opening, and our brain is changing with us.
Well, describe that for us without doing the exercise yet, because I definitely want to do that. But let's maybe define the terms of open and closed. What does that look like and feel like?
Well, I hate to do this to you, but I'd rather do the exercise, because I don't want to put any preconceived notions into someone's head. Everybody has a little bit of a different feeling for it, and there's a reason for that. Is that okay? Because otherwise I'm telling them what to feel, and then it's not as authentic.
Let's do it.
Right. Yeah.
Great. Absolutely. Let's do that, and then I'll explain it. Okay. All right. Let's see. So what you'll do is close your eyes and feel the bottom of your feet And what you'll notice is there's a little tingling as you start to pay attention to them. Feel the little warmth and tingling. And then feel the palms of your hands. Once again, you'll get a little tingle or a little heat. And I'm going to give you 2 statements while you're paying attention to the feet and hand sensations. Just let them go through your mind like a cloud does through the sky, and notice how you feel between your throat and stomach. Feet and hands. Here's the first statement. I do not have an internal guidance system. Notice any sensation. You can just say it a couple times. I do not have an internal guidance system. And here's the second statement. Pay attention to your feet and hands again. I do have an internal guidance system. Once again, notice any sensation. I do have an internal guidance system. All right, wiggle your toes, open your eyes. How was that? What did you feel?
Well, for me, I felt it with the second statement. It was lighter. It was more energetic, more of awareness of the position where they were at, and I was palms up. So like it almost like it created a image in my mind of those hands being in front of me at palms up.
And the first statement, did you have anything?
It was kind of, it wasn't warm and fuzzy. It was dull.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Jackie? What'd you feel?
What I noticed was the way my body reacted to it, because the first statement, I don't know that I necessarily felt anything, but when the second statement came into mind, I took a deep breath. And then I took another deep breath, and it wasn't like I controlled that. It was just like, that's what my body wanted to do. So it did feel like there was an opening of my lungs. I don't know that I felt it necessarily right here, but it was definitely, it's like my lungs were opening, whereas before they were still. So that's how I would describe it.
Great. Perfect. So what a lot of people feel on the first statement is a lump in their throat, a tightness in their chest, or a rock feeling in their solar plex area. It can be slight. It doesn't have to be big. We call that a closing. I just had to call it something, and I wanted it to be like a term where you're just acknowledging I'm closed. Doesn't mean anything other than your body's tight. These 3 areas have 3 different meanings. The throat is when you're disempowering yourself. The chest is real-time information about what you're thinking. And the solar plex is a belief system. And it shows up, some people never have a lump in their throat because they were never programmed as a child to not believe in themselves. Other people live permanently. They've even gone, I've had students say they've gone to the doctor to see if there's got cancer or something in their throat because there's a permanent blockage that they can feel, but there's nothing they can find. And that is related to childhood programming. The second statement is what people report is an expansion, being it like something breathed them, right? It's like, or an upward shaped V that arises, a lightness. And I call that an opening. And then there's also a neutral. A neutral is where you're not having anything happen at all. You just feel your comfortable self. And so these sensations are related only to what we think. They're not related to outside us, which is kind of counterintuitive because the human mind will say that person's making me feel bad. This situation is causing my stress, but it's the way we're thinking about the situation that's causing the stress, which is why you can have somebody who's a leader and takes everything with a grain of salt and is able to just stay calm because it's their thinking is calm. And somebody else, any little thing can set them off and send them into spiraling anxiety. And it's our way our minds work. And so what I do is I teach people how to use this, and you use it throughout your day. You feel a slight closing. Let's say you're deciding to pay a bill. I'd had this happen the other day. I wanted to pay a bill and I closed and I was like, that's weird. And so I called them up 2 days later and said, I'm sorry, I haven't paid. And they go, oh, that's been erased. That's gone. Like your insurance paid that. And they didn't tell me. Nobody said a word. I had this bill sitting around, and I was about to write a check for. So it's these little things that it knows, as well as our personality and where we're supposed to go and what's going to get us there. That's how I was able to go so far so quickly, is because I was reprogramming my brain towards being a leader and successful with every little decision I was making along the way.
Wow. So now one of the first exercises you have in your book is, I think you call it drop into listening. And that's basically what we
Yes.
just did, right? Drop into listening. And
Yes,
we're not
that's the first
necessarily
step.
listening with our ears. We're listening with a different sense.
Is it intuition, Zen? Is that what it is?
No, that's a great question. A lot of people believe that it's, ask me, isn't this just your intuition? I have intuitive gifts. I'm claircognizant, which is part of the way I was able to develop this work and figure it out. That means I just get bodies of information. They just drop in like full ideas, right? Every single person has intuition, and every single person has their internal guidance system. The internal guidance system is always operating in relationship to your thinking. And as you get more advanced in it, which takes about 2 months, you'll feel a upwelling pull. There's a flow that begins happening through you. It works the same way. This internal guidance system works the same way in every person that I've ever taught, in every culture. We all have it, and it works the same. Intuition, there's multiple gifts. There's being empathic, there's clairvoyant, there's claircognizant, there's, all these different ones. And in me talking to other people who are intuitive, it operates different. Like my claircognizant, I have a friend who's claircognizant. I feel like it gets dropped in as a complete idea, and I can kind of look at it from all sides. She sees a storyline. It comes in and it does a storyline of the idea from beginning to end. So with me, somebody could ask me a question and it's already there. With her, she has to wait for her to get through the storyline, and then she can talk to somebody about what she's gotten. So even intuitively, it works different, and you have to discover how your intuitive gifts work for you. Empaths, same thing. Some people feel other people. Some people feel in their body what the other person's feeling. It's not the same for everyone. And I think that's actually important. I think we're all pieces of a beautiful puzzle that's happening. But this is something that we're all born with, and it's like your heartbeat. All people's heartbeats pretty much work the same, So that's the difference. Now, before I go on, what I love is you can use your internal guidance system to find out what's accurate about your intuitive gift, because as soon as we get information, our brain wants to wrap a story around it, and it changes the purity of it. Or whether you were even supposed to say something, or if that information is just for you, right? So I have trained intuitives how to use their internal guidance system to be able to get rid of what's their brain, what's their ego, and able to be more pure in what they've received.
That's interesting.
So use as an example, if I have a thought come in, then I would ask myself, is this true or is this false? And use the inner guidance system to then get that feeling of closed or open to tell me what the deal is. Correct? Yeah.
And one of the things, I'm discovering this as I go, right? I don't have I'm not taking this from any other teacher or anything. I'm decoding it. And so I used to teach people how to ask questions, but what I found is that is a very limiting way to, and it only works at certain times, because our brain already has a box. And so what happens is people want to say black or white, yes or no, right? But what happens when you have a magic 8-ball and it gives you an answer you don't like?
You shake it up and do it again.
Shake it again until you get the answer you want, right? Well, that's what people try to do with the internal guidance system. And what I've discovered is it's actually, and you can often, but use it that way. But let's say you're trying to decide between living in San Francisco or Marin County, right? West Coast, I live here. So, or New York or New Jersey, right? If you're supposed to live in New Hampshire and you're trying to get a question answered for these two places where you think you're supposed to go, you're in your own mental box about what you believe can happen. And so what I found is I now teach people to catch the thinking, and it's really easy. As they go throughout their day, there'll be a slight closing and they'll examine what is it. And I've broken it down into categories. So you can go, oh, I'm feeling frustrated. And then when you're frustrated, it means this, and this is what you do. And then you shift into the opening, and now you've started a new neural pathway. And so what happens is you're catching all these little things, these that are limiting in your life as you go. And then the second part is teaching flow, which is that pull that I've discovered, that once you get in tune with this, it literally, and we all have it, right? It's like when you get a feeling to call someone.
Right.
or you're thinking about somebody and then they pick up the phone and they're like, and you call them and they're like, I was just thinking about you. And you're like, of course I was. Of course you were. That's the way life is filled with magic and synchronicity. All of nature is engaged in magic and synchronicity. Go out into the forest and look how everything's operating together. That's magic. It's incredible how nature works, right? Well, we are part of nature, and our minds over the years have taken us away from that. And so this internal guidance system through this pull brings you right back into this experience of being right where you're supposed to be, right where you belong in the moment, where your significant contributions is to be made. And sometimes it's a smile at the Starbucks clerk. Sometimes it's giving your best friend a book that they really need. Sometimes it's taking a nap, and sometimes it's pouring it out and like really working hard on something that is engaging to you. And it all fits nicely when you follow this flow. And that flow will take you to New Hampshire. There'll be something that'll call you there and you'll land. I've had this happen a few times in my life. And you'll be like, oh, this is where I belong. You just know it. But your mind can't get you there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this reminds me of a guest we had on probably a couple of years ago, Dr. Eisendrath, who wrote a book about depression and getting rid of the pills to fight depression. And he was really adamant when he said, thoughts are not facts.
Yes.
And so you're validating that, Zen, and that you're saying we get these thoughts and they may not be true. Most likely they're not, because we get millions of thoughts a day and they can't all be true, right? So but what you're saying is that we have this guidance system then that can delineate between what's true and false,
yes,
and even every thought that we have.
Yes.
So if I'm thinking I would like to have enchiladas for lunch, we think, okay, what's my internal guidance system saying? Do I feel open or closed about this decision? And then
it's even different a little. Yes. And let me give you an example. And you might know Todd, if you know this, don't say it because we've had an interview before. Okay. Don't ruin my moment there. So there you go. But if you don't know, so what color is a yield sign?
Oh, I know this because I read your book.
What color came up for you when you first did it?
It was totally yellow and black. Absolutely.
Right. So the yellow and black yield sign was out of commission by 1974. It started in 1971 and it took 3 years to replace them all. Now, all of your listeners are running to Wikipedia. The real yellow and black, it doesn't exist anywhere. It's red and white, and it's been red and white for 50 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So why is this? Our brain does not have the capacity to update when it's wrong, when it sees something that's off. We get programmed between the ages of 0 and 7. And when we passed a red yield sign thousands of times, it never said, "Ooh, that's different. I need to fix that." That's not how it works. We get programmed and then we run off that program for the rest of our lives. So here's the thing. People spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in personal development. And they go to a course, for instance, they get super excited. They come home on Monday, they're going to engage with everything they just learned. And by Wednesday, they're back to who they were.
Yeah.
Yep. Been there.
Totally. Read a book, all this. You cannot change your brain by putting new information in. Even though you now know that it's yellow and black, in a year, you'll know it's a trick question, but you won't be able to recall it because I just gave you information. But if I give you a crayon and I have you take a piece of paper and you color in the red and white yield sign, you will forever remember it because the body programs the mind. Wow. Right? And so these openings that happen when we find something that's not true. So let me give you an example. My husband and I came racing upstairs a couple of years ago, super excited about this new idea I have and wanting us to do it. I give him all the information. Look at me. I'm super I'm a promoter, right? And he goes, "I hate it when you manipulate me." And my heart I was like, and I thought, I am not manipulating him. And I closed, which means what I'm thinking is not true. And I was like, whoa, I am manipulating him. And it opened. All right. Now, I said to him, I just opened that I'm manipulating you, but I swear to God, I'm not manipulating you. What do you mean? And he said, you're so enthusiastic. You're so bought into your ideas that I don't have a choice. I either disappoint you by saying no, or I say yes, but I haven't had the time to think about it for myself and decide what's right for me. Yeah. And then later down the road, I'll tell you, I never wanted to do this. And you'll be like, but you said yes. And then I'm in between a rock and a hard place. I need time to think. So after that, we set it up to where I would come in and I would be less enthusiastic. I'd save my enthusiasm for when he said yes, and he usually does, because he just is a great man. But he has time to think about it. He comes back. It's an honest yes. And it changed our marriage. Now, the old Zen, high school dropout Zen, right, would have screamed at him, I am not manipulating you, and gone on a war path to prove that I was not manipulating him.
Right.
But my IGS knows. It knows things that you could never know. For instance, I was at dinner with a girlfriend and she was talking about her car breaking down. And she said, I'm totally don't know what to do because I can't afford a new car. And she was a student and she tightened. And she goes, whoa, I just closed. I can't afford a new car. What? And she opened. She ended up getting a new car that was so efficient in gas. It actually cost her less money to make the car payments and to be able to do it. She was completely able to do it. They took her old car in trade and it all worked out beautifully. And it was about the same amount per month that she was already spending on her car. And it was great. But these are things that somehow there's a wisdom, there's a discernment, there's a divineness of intelligence that's coming through us that knows our purpose and our path and our blueprint. And when you follow the information through the openings, you get there with ease. And it knows where we're stopping ourselves. It's wild. I don't have an answer for that yet, right? I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life. But it's incredible the information that it has for us.
You know, that just hit me. So Zen, this is a serious question now. What do you think it is?
For me, I don't like to talk. For me, I think everybody needs to answer that question for themselves, because I think all of us having a different interpretation actually will eventually, it's like we're all touching an elephant and we all have the trunk, the tail, the feet, the side, different experience of what it is. And I think our collective wisdom as a human being in the life we've led here will influence what it is. And that will lead to a better conversation for all of us to contribute. I think that's the way the world's supposed to work. Yeah. For me personally, I believe it's the Holy Spirit. Yeah. I believe I'm being ministered to in this quiet, beautiful way, like they talk about in the Bible. I've studied lots of different religions and I have respect for all of them. But for me, it always came back to God and the one God and me. And I believe that we were given this so we could find our way back to a Christ-like consciousness. I'm not saying Christ is the only way for everybody. It's none of my business. But what I am saying is there's a Christ consciousness of forgiveness and love and there's a lot of things that he said that I believe we should be standing for and moving towards as humans. And I think this is what gets us there, because I know I've been more compassionate, empathetic and loving when situations happen than I could have ever been on my own.
Would you say you're more in tune to morals, principles, and values as well?
Yes, but it's in a different way. Yeah. Because
on a different level, it's more compassion and empathy and an understanding of that other person's viewpoint or side or however it is they're showing up. Exactly.
We've made a lot of rules. One way is people who are successful trying to teach people how they did it, but they did it their way. They followed their openings. Some people will open to work harder and some people will work to open to work less hard. I've found that there's no real rules. Everything is completely unique to the situation. And so sometimes my solid, firm no to someone, and it's one of the things we learn, that I teach in Smart Soul Academy is we have a thing, is it any of your business? And this, about anything that you're causing any anxiety, stress, worry, fear, stop and just hold the thought, is this even any of my business? Mm-hmm. If you open it is, which is like a darn it moment, because you are supposed to be there. You are part of the solution. But most of the time, I would say almost 90 to 95, you tighten, which means there's nothing that you can contribute to the situation that will help that person or create a solution. You're not supposed to be in it. And I got an opening I had breast cancer last year. I'm cancer free, all good. Nice. The moment I felt the breast lump, I opened that it was cancer. I opened that I wasn't going to need radiation. I opened that I wasn't going to need chemo. I opened that I was going to be cancer free and it was not going to be a big problem. And I went through my cancer journey completely fear free. And I also opened that it wasn't any of my business. I opened not to look on Google, that it was going to heal itself, that I would know exactly what I needed to do the moment I needed. I didn't have to think about it. And that's exactly what happened.
Wow.
Is as the decisions came, I felt what was right for me and I moved forward. And I had doctors telling me they wanted to do 6 months of radiation, then take the lump out, then do 6 months of chemo. And I said, no way, we're getting it out. I'm going to do a double mastectomy. Lumpectomy did not feel opening. And that's it. I'm not going to need any of that. And lo and behold, after it was over, they said, no, you do not need chemo. We got everything. There's nothing in the lymph node. You're solid. You can move on.
Wow.
So yeah, it wasn't any.
It's almost like it's part of a super intelligence that we possess. Right?
Yes, or access to.
Yeah.
And the other thing I've discovered is people are always searching for their life's purpose. And what I've discovered is we have like 100,000 of them. It's me going downstairs and having a really great conversation with my son. It opens me and I could feel that he needs that. Or I have all kinds of people that I open to help. Somebody will be struggling and I'll, be on a Zoom as a student and I'll be like, I'll help you with that. Call me. And that I give them 15 minutes and tell them everything they need to know in that moment to keep them going. That's part of my life's purpose. One of my life's purposes is I talk to everybody and make them laugh and just enjoy them. I joke that no matter where you put your shopping cart in the grocery store, it's going to be in the way of somebody. And that's the person you're supposed to say hi to today. And so just enjoy it. And they go, I'm sorry you're in the way. I'm like, you're not in my way. I was just supposed to say hi to you today. Everywhere. And I tell them this little thing and they're like, you're right.
Great way to diffuse a situation
like,
too.
You're right.
I mean, yeah, it's totally.
All right. So this sounds really cool. But what about people like me who, couple of things.
Yeah.
I feel like I've always struggled with that conduit to inspiration, right? I mean, like you, I had a pretty rough childhood and I came to the point where I couldn't trust parents. And therefore it also made it difficult to trust heavenly parents as well, right? And believing that there was actually information coming for me from some sort of source. I was like, no one's out to save me. I realized that early on. I have to save myself, right? So for someone like me, I think I have a difficult time feeling that. So I need to know from you, Zen, what does it feel like for you when you say that you're opened, or what does it feel like for you when you say you're closed? Because maybe I can connect with that a little bit.
Okay. So because this has been happening throughout our entire history, we have felt this sensation and we've named it different things. So the following things are always closing: stress, worry, fear, anxiety, overwhelm, rushing, procrastination, frustration, irritation, guilt. You will always feel a tightness in your body. This is how I break it down at Smart Soul Academy. And we deal with each one of these differently. Procrastination, I have 4 questions to ask yourself about its divine timing, or it doesn't need to be done, or it needs to be done with somebody else, or you're making it too complicated in the way you think you have to do it. Mm-hmm. And so when you're procrastinating on something, I give you a specific tool and you unravel it. Irritation is always, always, always a person that you believe will not change. Frustration is a situation or a thing that you believe will not change or cannot change. And it can. You're closed. And so what you do is like, what here do I think is not going to be, it can't change. You find that thing and you'll be closed. And then there's a process to open you back up. And that frustrating thing or that irritating person, they actually change when you change what's inside. Mm-hmm. And so over the course of time, and like I said, we have about 2 years worth of programs and people usually stay because they're really juicy. But in the first 3 months, using stress to happiness, we break down all of these things, which I label all of them as stress, right? Procrastination, very stressful. Guilt, very stressful. They all close you. Guilt, let me talk about guilt for a minute. I love guilt, the conversation. Guilt is always closing. It's a program that we were given when we were a child about what makes us a good or a bad person. Remorse is opening. When you have remorse for something, you go to make amends. You know it. You have this centered feeling. Guilt, you never take action on. You just have it. It runs around in your head. So you can deprogram guilt. So like one of my guilt things used to be feeding my kids things that aren't super healthy, the big organic meal every night, but I couldn't. So I do the best I can. I get them some really good organic hot dogs and watermelon, and that's their dinner. And I got to keep moving. And I don't feel guilty about it anymore. It actually opens me that's perfectly fine. Other things that you feel remorseful about, you go do something. And so what happens is that connection that I have, everyone in the programs gets it, because what you notice is as you're moving throughout your day, this is a constant thing that's with you, guiding you, helping you have a really easy, the state of allowing, for instance, that Abraham talks about. This is moving and consistently into staying in the state of allowing. Mm-hmm. And so what happens is you realize that you're never alone, that there's something that's helping you in every moment. It's there. And it's always gentle and kind. And it's a little alarm bell going, no, these aren't the thoughts that are going to help you. Let's move it. Let's move it back. And then it opens and you're on track. And this connection starts happening because you realize there's something beyond you living inside of you that loves you and actually really is a part of you. And it's been there the whole time, and the relationship builds. And then people, like, I've gone into corporations and taught this because it's really good for productivity, organization and stress, and have people making decisions together. Everybody having a conversation and then coming up with something that's opening for everyone is really good for a company, because you got the right track, right? And I'll have people come up after the 3 days and whisper to me, "You're really teaching us about God." And I'm like, and I'm like, yeah.
For you. If that works for you,
it works for you. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, Zen. I think we are coming down to the wire. I certainly hope you will come back again,
anytime.
Only sooner this time, because there is so much more we can talk about. But tell us about the book. So you said it takes about 2 months. Are the practices in the book, or is it just tuning in with ourselves?
I recommend going to Smart Soul Academy, and I have a place where your listeners can go. So I'm going to give that first. You go to MindSpark, MindSpark.com, mymindspark.com. And in there are the first 3 practices. So you'll be able to use it throughout your day immediately. So their videos are like 15 minutes. I give you a practice. You come back the next day, give you a practice, and then you'll get an experience right away of how this works. And the first practice is to start building your mind, recognizing that they're connected, that this is responding. And you'll see how fast you can start learning it. But I learned, like I said, you can't put information in. Yeah. The book is great once you're using it, but the IGS. But I teach the Miyagi approach. Do you remember Karate Kid? Wax on, wax off.
There you go.
Yeah. So Smart Soul Academy, what I do is I give them a 15-minute lecture with a practice, and then 3 days later, another 15-minute lecture with a practice. And we just keep going through 3 months. And so what happens is you're physically using your IGS during those 3 days, and you're reprogramming your mind as you go. Wow. And so the results are immediate and they're fast. Within 2 weeks, people feel completely different. And by the end of the 3 months, we've gone over how to create opening boundaries, and about soul family, people that belong in your life, people that don't belong in your life, how to have tough conversations into the opening. I go through all these things that we need on a daily basis. And when they've done that, and it's $47 a month, and you get access to all the programs. So it's not an expensive program. It's a membership. And if you do 97, you get coaching with me in a group setting 5 times a month. So help you, like, I'm stuck on this. I can't get out of my box, right? I'm closed and I can't figure out how to open. So you just bring it to the call. And so the thing is that at the end of that 3 months, you're using this as a regular part of your life in all the stuff I listed: frustration, irritation, guilt, procrastination. All of that's handled in Smart Soul Academy. And because we're reprogramming using your IGS, you use it. Where a book, you're going to be, oh, that was cool information. And then off you go.
Yeah. The self-help book becomes a shelf-help book.
Exactly. And it is good when to have on hand if you're doing Smart Soul Academy, because there's a troubleshooting guide. It's like, okay, this is what's happening. What's going on? Oh yeah. I learned that. There's a reminder to it that helps you remember quickly in one quick, little book. But actually using it, I recommend the practices.
Yeah.
And you can start with mindspark.com. That'll give you the first 3 so you can feel it.
MySpark.com.
My Mindspark. Because what
you're
sparking the openings, right? MyMindspark.com.
Cool.
Oh, that's interesting, because I wrote My purpose in life is to light the path that leads others to the fire that sparks a fire in their own heart.
I love that.
I came up with that years and years ago, but that's my guidance. That's the deal. And that's what Life Mastery Radio is all about.
I love it.
I haven't got any communication from our engineer.
Yeah, he says we got to wrap up. He says, got to go.
Oh, I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing that chat. Zen, thank you so much for being on the show today and bringing your great wisdom and teaching us how we can tap into that wisdom.
Thank you.
I hope you, like I said, I hope you'll come back.
Anytime you want to ask, I'm in.
That's about all the time we have for today. I hope you enjoyed the show. Tell a friend about the show. Come back again next week. And lastly, please, please, please make it a great day, because it's about choice. Bye-bye for now.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for tuning in to Life Mastery Radio. Join Todd Allen and Jackie Bailey and their guests of leading authors, speakers, coaches, and entrepreneurs weekly at 10 a.m. Pacific. Learn to live a peaceful life with intentional mastery through stories and messages to support your well-being and most evocative dreams. Visit their website, www.lifemasteryradio.com. Join their mailing list and be notified about upcoming guests. That's lifemasteryradio.com.